of George Dunbar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Niddle, for being here. And I will try and adhere to your 5-minute rule there, Chairman. So far, we've heard, as expected, a lot of discussion about the structural deficit and the governor's desire to increase taxes to address this deficit and to avoid Armageddon in the state of Pennsylvania. In your January 2016 Economic and Budget Outlook on page 49, it reads, "The Commonwealth has operated with a structural imbalance in the general fund for several years, largely due to a 2008-2009 recession and a tepid recovery." Also, in your November 2014 report on page 37, you indicate the structural imbalance for 2008-2009 was more than $3 billion. That's without including the stimulus funds. And following up to Chairman Adolph's questions, the difference between a structural deficit and a budget deficit. We're talking about a structural deficit of at least $3 billion from 2008-2009, correct?
That number I can't confirm. We didn't do that computation in 8-9, okay. Whether it was structural or not, I can't.
Okay. And just as a point of contention, you had in response to the chairman's question about a stimulus fund, should they be included as part of a structural deficit, you said no. But if those funds were used to reduce regular operating costs, would they not then be part of the structural deficit going forward because that's a baseline cost?
I would, again, characterize that if the funds were injected into the state economy and they were temporary funds intended for a temporary purpose.
But if they weren't a temporary purpose, if they
were not temporary, and then I would say yes, okay. Then they would be included.
And in that regard, I would say then our structural deficit may have been closer to $4 billion in 2008-2009. Following through on that, if our structural deficit in 08-09 was $4 billion, and every year we've had a budget since then, and the budget has been in balance, we've addressed that through budget deficits, getting back to what Chairman Adolph was saying about the difference between a budget deficit and a structural deficit. So make sure I understand this. So every year we address our budget deficit, but it doesn't always fix our structural deficit.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And Armageddon hasn't taken place. We're still here. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So if our structural deficit was close to $4 billion in 08-09, and we're projecting $1.9 billion, I believe Chairman Markosik used that term, 1.9 billion, Joe, is that where?
Yes.
Okay.
Next year.
And he called it a structural budget deficit, which is combining both terms, so I'm a little bit confused. But anyways, we've gone from $4 billion down to $1.9 billion. So since 08-09, we have reduced our structural deficit.
Again, if it was indeed $4 billion, we haven't done that computation.
Okay. So we've done it every year through temporary measures, budgetary techniques. But we use that to address our budget deficit, but we've also reduced our structural deficit since then.
Again, I'm not sure what the base is in that year, what the deficit number is.
Okay, so I guess really what I'm getting at is there's more than just one answer to how we fix this problem.
Well, there could be many approaches for addressing a structural issue.
Okay, thank you. That's really all I had. And I think I got it under 5 minutes there, Chairman.
You did very well.
Thanks.